Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Caribbean Edge. My name is Dawn Wilson, and thank you for joining me this evening, this beautiful Wednesday evening. I want to thank everyone that is taking time out within the community, outside the community, to share their ideas and input for the Caribbean Edge. I've had the honor and privilege of watching the Caribbean Edge grow. It's such a support system for so many people, and we certainly enjoy educating, communicating, and learning from each other. And during these precious times, it's even more powerful for us to have these formats and to be able to communicate with you. So the last two episodes, I had the privilege of talking to friends about what other friends are saying about them, just special dedications. And that was just beautiful because it just shows how important our friends are to us. And then last week I had the opportunity to talk to you about love and dedications of love. And so many beautiful and amazing men talk to their wives or their girlfriends about how they truly feel and what they mean to them in those relationships. That I was blown away. I know a lot of people were blown away. I heard tears were shed by some of these women, and of course I got feedback like, wow, he never says those wonderful things to me. So it's such a beauty to get that amazing feedback that we're sharing so many different sides to life throughout this process. So tonight is no different. It's probably deeper as far as, I had to give a lot more thought to it. And a lot of times when I do this show, I absolutely don't know till 48 hours lately what I want to talk about. So I appreciate you tuning in, and also for the people that do participate as well, because you send volumes by doing what you do. And this particular episode is about from our eyes, just different perspectives of how we're handling COVID-19, the reality of it, and how it's impacting each of us. And one of the things that stood out to me throughout this, and which was a lesson learned for me actually, and I'm sure some of you is, when we heard that schools would close and kids would be taking lessons online, I didn't think for a second that a kid did not have internet or a computer to be able to access their schoolwork. Now, it's just not a reality in my home. It wasn't in my thoughts. The same thing about kids not having food, and preparations are going to have to be made for kids that come to food, and that's probably the only time they get a chance to eat. So what I'm saying to you is, like, we all live in this bubble, right, of what our reality is. But, that's why it's so important to educate ourselves, watch the news, learn from each other, have conversations. And I didn't grow up rich at all. I wore one shoes to school, to church, to everywhere I went. I grew up in Spanish Town, Jamaica, in the red dirt. And, sometimes we had food, but there were times that I don't know how we had food. There wasn't a splurge of food like my kids can just open the fridge door now. That's not the setting I grew up in. So it's just to say, our bubble is our bubble, and one of the reasons we do this show is so we can talk about things that we don't even think about. And for me personally, it's to just see how blessed I am, and that my children are, and that we're not alone. And a lot of times, unfortunately, there are people in such dire situations that we have to talk about it and raise awareness to it. So that's the reason behind this show, and from our eyes, and how each of us look at it so differently and have a different perspective. I'll start with me and working from home. At first, like a lot of you hear working from home and you think, wow, this is so cool. But it's not that easy. What I envisioned initially is not what's happening, right? So in my real world, I typically work Monday through Friday. It is a busy lifestyle because it's healthcare. We send out caregivers to assist the elderly population. Is our primary clientele. So it's a busy scheduled work week. And then every 3 weeks I rotate as a manager because we service different counties. So just giving you a visual here of this. Now that I'm working from home, I'm on call 24/7 while my staff is typically on call. So I work my regular schedule, and then I'm on call after hours taking what is normally designated to my staff, plus my manager calls and any new clientele that may come on board that needed to be uploaded into our system, or to have a conversation with what their needs are, etc., etc. So with that said, my workload from home is probably tripled. So it means long hours. I'll get calls at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I'm a night owl, so I'm probably going to bed like 12:30 anyway. And as soon as I fall asleep, my phone rings, and guess what? It's a client that fell. It's someone may not have been allowed in somewhere because it's suspected COVID-19. And I can tell you, with one COVID-19 call, trickles maybe 5 to 10 other calls from that, because you have to notify anyone that person, a caregiver, the family came in touch with. So, and that's weekends, that's Saturday and Sunday. So just to give you a perspective from my perspective of what working from home is like, I'm not impacted by commute, obviously. I can wear what I want to wear to work, which is typically shorts and a t-shirt, and I kind of try to walk outside if I'm on a conference call and get some sunlight. But I love what I do. I love the impact that I can make on people's lives. I love communicating with people, and that's very important. It also is a mental aspect to that, where you're talking to people that are alone. You're talking to an elderly population that may not have family in the state you're working in. So it has its challenges that you have to be mentally prepared for. And then when I think of the nurses and the doctors that are out there putting their lives at risk every single day, working countless hours, then my perspective on what's happening with me, they blow my situation out the water. I can't even fathom, getting 3-4 hours sleep and having to watch people die every day. I would just cry. I would cry. I just couldn't do it. So my heart goes out to, beyond anything, the nurses, the doctors, the caregivers. Let's not forget our home health aides, whether they're a HHA or a CNA, that are going into people's homes that may have this virus and taking care of them. I watch a video of a nurse, and I'll talk to that as well, because she was part of what inspired me. One of our viewers, Joan, sent me the video, and it was just perfect for what I wanted to get out there to us, is the different perspectives of life, right? So there are nurses out there that have gotten this virus that I know of, had to stay home in the worst deplorable conditions ever, get better, and then go back to work to save lives. That is what our nurses are faced with, and our doctors, and everyone that is involved, cleaning the hospitals, everything. We don't want to forget anyone. So I can't afford to have a pity party. Another experience I want to share with you, like my right shoulder is hurting. I'm giving you everything, this human side of everything, but there's a point to it. So with that said, I call my doctor's office trying to get an appointment. Now, this is not an emergency, but it's getting to a point where it's irritated and I'm not doing any activity because I'm working too much to be active. But you can't get an appointment. So I'm waiting for a call back for 2 days now. And I try to switch to a different doctor's office, and I'm being told that they'll put me on the schedule till the end of May, and that may be extended if the doctor's offices are not open to accept new patients. So my point to this conversation is I'm not a critical patient that needs something right now. However, there are people that may feel a lump in their breast. There are people that may have fallen, and they have to make a personal choice. Am I going to go to a hospital knowing I can be exposed to this virus, or I'm just going to stay home and wait for things to get better? So if I got to a point where obviously I needed to get better or immediate attention, I would. But one of the things that I'm saying to my kids as they're working out, I'm like, try not to get hurt, because I'm going to have to make a choice to take you somewhere, and that choice is scary. So my next point I want to make is for all the patients who are cancer patients that need their treatments, and they're having to go in under these conditions. I just beg people to stay home. That's all I can do, is beg people to stay home and envision what other people are going through, because they're too scared to go to the doctor for something that they need to save their lives, right? So different perspective, different people, different situation, one world. I don't have a pity party for me, just trying to use my experiences to say there are people out there that really need the services. So I'm one that's 100% staying home so that people that do need to go out can feel more safe, more safe in the supermarkets, more safe to go to the hospitals or the doctor's offices. If I really, really need to go, I certainly will. So I asked a couple friends to tell me what Corona has done for them. Some people I don't even know, never met, but a friend of mine did a really good job in getting some answers for me. And before I get into that, so I was watching the Prime Minister of Jamaica, where I'm from, talk about Jamaica, and I can't imagine his perspective and the decisions he has to make, and for any leaders of any country as well. But I'll narrow it down for him when I watch him, because I keep up with him. I think he's done an amazing job, him and his team. But the tough decisions, he made a curfew yesterday from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. for the country. And they had, as of this morning, I believe, 233 cases. And unfortunately, 124 of those were from one specific workplace. But only 34, which is still a number, I don't mean to belittle it, were imported. So to me, they've done a great job in keeping the numbers down. They've stopped cruise ships from coming in at an early stage. He's been out there in the field just doing things that I really respect him for, to try to keep the numbers down. My sister posted yesterday where she's in Turks and Caicos, and they have 7 people infected there. So the hard work that they're doing is paying off, but he's still struggling to get people to stay home. Not everyone's listening, so they're trying to keep the numbers down. I can't even go into the U.S. because our numbers are way out of control, and different states are deciding whether to open, what to open, and it's absolutely scary. But in Jamaica, I know 6 people died and 27 people recovered, and that's just one small island doing its part within the Caribbean. I'm very proud of you. Now, Jody Taylor, who is a 28-year-old in New York, took time out to write for me today. I've never met Jody, but I'm thankful that she sent this to me. And it gives the perspective of a young adult within New York City. So she says, being in quarantine in New York is particularly more amplified than anywhere else. Usually the things that make living in New York City worthwhile have all been quickly taken away from us almost overnight. Previously, many of us are living in small 500 square foot apartments alone or with a roommate. And that felt like more than enough, a little oasis in a chaotic city that we loved. Previously, I came home only to sleep or spend a lazy Sunday, and my little apartment felt like enough. However, now the walls seem to be closing in. You don't move to New York City for comfort. You move for energy, the people, the food, the events, the park, the work, the museums. Now those are gone, and we're all confined to our small cells, unable to leave the house or take even a drive like my friends in other cities. New York City is also a gig economy. Plenty of people are in corporate, but many New Yorkers are artists, actors, writers who subsidize their living by waitressing, etc. Now that the restaurants and theaters are closed, we're estranged thousands of people from the art they love and their favorite restaurant, but more importantly, from work that sustains them and their family. Being quarantined in New York takes almost the worst aspects of being in quarantine and magnifies it over and over. It's called into question for myself and my peers the longevity of living in New York City like New York. It certainly forces me to reconsider my forever city. Will New York ever be the same once thousands of restaurants are forced to close? We can no longer gather in the park for the Philharmonic Orchestra or sit elbow to elbow in a packed wine bar. In the essence of New York doesn't exist. What's the point of staying? So just a perspective of a young lady in New York. I'm sure that she's missing her family because her mom told me that. And I'm hoping, Jody, that New York will bring back its life. It may not open up immediately because safety is number one, human life is number one, and I just think everyone has to make their personal decision. But I felt your love for the city, and I thank you for that amazing display of what your heart is for New York. And hopefully, if it's not New York, you'll find the passion for somewhere else. But hopefully you remain in New York for the beauty that it is. So thank you. And I must mention, we are live on Carry Vibes. Now, Carry Vibes is one of our, I've mentioned them before, but all our local DJs are tuned in every week, every day of the week live, streaming music for you. So I'm going to post that on the Caribbean Edge as well, so you can tune in. It's one of the ways you can get away. We love our music, we love our vibes, our culture, and there's a era of music for everyone. So you're going to find your favorite DJ in there in the mix, and then you know when to tune in at the time. So I'm going to get that information and post it on Caribbean Edge. And we're always thankful to Carry Vibes because they truly have supported the Caribbean Edge from day one. And I can tell you that my favorite DJ is DJ Radcliffe. I love all of them, but I picked my favorite long time ago. So thank you once again, Jody, for that. And I'm also going to read some of the comments on the show as well. So, because I definitely want to look at your input for this very amazing topic that we're doing, eye-opening topic, I should say. So a friend of mine gave me, her daughter wrote this, and it's her perspective. Bipolarism, mixed features. My experience is just that, mine and mine alone. To say this is what bipolar is would be an understatement of the highest degree. However, mindset bipolarism isn't me. My thoughts are mine and mine alone, and my feelings are valid. To say I'm acting in extreme is to say a person shouldn't cry at a funeral. I'm the most upbeat person you will ever meet, hold a job, have a husband, have a loving family. I'm actually so consistent I manage to be the breadwinner of my household. However, reality, bipolar, is me. The embodiment of my being is the textbook symptoms of mixed features. Yes, I have thoughts racing so quickly one can barely understand the words coming out of my mouth. Yes, I feel so low I can barely stand. Yes, I can radiate with 1,000 suns to inspire all around me while embodying upon myself for everything I will never be. Do I contradict myself? Yes. I am large. I contain multitudes experience. I am not a tormented soul. My emotions and mind simply don't see eye to eye at times. I've been displaying suicidal tendencies since 8, and for all the symptoms displayed, for all the times I was told it was just a phase, a lot of it was and a lot of it wasn't. The mental health system has been appalling. Within a 15-year span, the doctors in my youth say, don't worry about it. After 19, 20, suddenly it isn't a phase, but a condition, and it makes me wonder how long I should have demanded more. As an adult without insurance, it has been 4 months or longer between prescriptions being written and revisited. To have your mind always taunting you without knowledge of what this is supposed to be doing isn't acceptable. One of the medications I'm actually having an allergic reaction to. However, the doctors never knew. Without insurance, the doctors never care. Take away a person with physical illness and mental illness, my asthma will be taken more seriously because it's something a doctor can see. A mental illness, even with doctors, it is ignored. And without the choice of healthcare and availability, the line of who I am and who I am not are blurred. Those without a support system don't stand much of a chance, in my opinion, only because the system is designed to medicate, not understand, plan, and reevaluate. So I thank my friend's daughter for this, and the reason I really wanted to share her thoughts is, can you imagine her situation, her perspective, and times 10 what we're going through is what she's having to go through during this situation. And like she sums it up, just having that support system around her, and I know how much her family does love and care for her, speaks volumes to her. So my heart goes out to everyone that's having to deal with mental issues, psychological issues, especially during these times. And I am personally learning how I can handle those situations better, because I also have to remind myself of who I am on a daily basis and motivate myself on a daily basis. So it's also my personal responsibility to start helping and motivating people as well. Wow. Another person who wanted to remain nameless, and this gives you a different perspective from someone else. How is COVID-19 affecting me? I'm doing well. No job. I lost my job because I worked with a sole proprietor of a business, and her husband lost his job. So now with one income, she can't pay me. Because I was an independent contractor, then I would not be qualified for unemployment. With stimulus package, I should have been able to get it, but with the millions applying, I have no idea when. In the meantime, nobody here is working. People are not hiring. I had a phone interview last week, but a few hours before they decided to freeze hiring. I have a little something for retirement, so that is now being used. I feel blessed I have that, so I'm good for the next 2 months. Mortgage has been deferred for 3 months, but credit card companies are only crediting late payments and interest is still accruing, so might as well pay it if you can. God is good, and I hope to get unemployment or a job in another month. I have a yard, both front and back, so don't feel trapped, and weather permitting, kids go out to play. Mentally, it does take its toll with the why is this happening, when will it end, and you know the world will never be the same. I think about what I should do, like clean the house, declutter, but very little gets done. I should learn to play the piano, teach myself crochet. I got the book, needles, but I can't find thread. Mostly grandchildren run me ragged, but I'm truly blessed. I think I will be okay. If I have to use all my retirement money, then God will provide some means for my future. I'm living on faith and Mama from heaven. Thank God, I will still praise His name. Thank you. So many people can relate to this because they've lost their jobs. So this is another person's perspective, and still thanking God for everything that she does have. Still finding that positive line despite her perspective, her situation. There are other people that don't have a retirement plan. There are people in this country that make $9, $10 an hour as an independent contractor, which means they still pay taxes out of that. They have nothing saved up. So many of us find ourselves in that situation where you're hanging on to your job by a thread because that's what's going to pay the bill. But you don't know if you're going to be in this situation yourself. And this is when the friends, your loved ones, your faith in God, your self-motivation, your health, everything matters right now to help you to go through this. So I definitely appreciate you sharing this. I connected as well with it because I remember initially I started decluttering my garage, painting the ceiling, but as work got more and more hectic, then it's harder and harder for me to continue to do the things I enjoy, like, you know, going running. Well, I love playing volleyball, but running would have been my substitute. So every chance I get on the weekend, I go out and I try to cut the lawn myself. I have my lawnmower to stay active. And this weekend gone, I was climbing on the ladder and cutting trees as well, tree branches. So trying to get some physical aspect in there to replace volleyball. But thank you for sharing that. Such an important perspective that so many people are going through right now. Dawn McMillan, I don't know her personally, but she sent me this. Like most people, if anyone had told me that my 2020 spring vacation would be spent at home in bed and not in Jamaica enjoying the best of the island, I would have laughed. On March 10th, I was told by my boss that due to the spread of the coronavirus, I would be off for a week early and also my vacation. I welcomed the thought of being home, but I had no idea how the next few weeks would have impacted my life. Once I did grocery shopping and went on the lockdown was when I really grasped the magnitude of what was happening around us and what we were facing. In the beginning, I was anxious and watching the news constantly, checking in with family and friends all around the world, and at the same time nervously trying to process what was happening around me. As the days progressed, it became increasingly difficult for me to eat and focus, and I realized I'd ask God to help me filter and find balance because I knew my absorbing everything and it was affecting me. I am thankful to he heard my prayer and strengthened me to a point that I was able to reach out to others and pray for them, pray for and with them. And as I was doing that, it became evident that more and more people were calling, and I asked God to give me a special anointing so that His will would be accomplished through me. What I learned as I became more focused on His will was the more I did His will and worship and gave Him the honor and the glory, the less I thought about myself, my state of mind, and what would happen to me. It steadied me to pray from a place I have not been in a very long time, and for that I am truly grateful. I thank Him for answered prayers. I've also been able to accomplish tasks in my home and spend quality time with my husband without thinking that we have work on Monday outside the home on Monday or any day for now. My body is rested, and I'm able to prepare meals on a daily basis and also do some reading. I pray for peace and comfort for so many all over the world who have lost loved ones, and I pray to see an end to this very soon. This is all in His hands, and I trust He will see us through. So thank you, Miss Dawn McMillan, for that. We share the same name. I think you summed it up really well, because we all went through that, right? We all went grocery shopping and had no idea the storm, if we can call it that was coming our way. We thought we were as prepared as we could be. And I think a lot of people have done exactly what you're saying, is they've leaned more into their faith to get through. We're reading the Bible more, discovering more about ourselves. Despite what your beliefs are, I think everyone is being more in tune to what they believe in. And thank you for praying for so many and being able to share this on the Caribbean Edge as well. A beautiful perspective. Single people, I want to talk to single people a little bit because I know you're certainly impacted by this. So I read something really interesting, and it says the last time a virus forced Americans indoors, women did not go inside alone. When the 1918 flu pandemic started to spread, the average woman got married at 21. Most went straight from their parents' home to their husbands, and others spent a few years at boarding house full of women their age, working in shops and factories as they awaited their proposal. A woman rarely made enough money to live by herself. The novel coronavirus has confined many women to a very different living situation. Today, approximately 23.5 million American women live alone more than ever before. That's largely because we're staying single longer. Yay! Sorry, I know some people are in love, and I love love. The average woman now waits until 28 to get married. More women are getting divorced or opting out of marriage altogether. Women who live alone are not necessarily lonely. Over the past few decades, women without partners or roommates have triumphed by developing strong social networks. When women live alone, they invest in their hobbies and maintain friendships. Studies show building connections with other people more effectively than men. You see more people when you're single than when you're married. And to pass time, these women have been trimming hedges, dancing barefoot, baking cookies without flour, and they have Zoom and video calls. From one decade to the next, women are alone for different reasons. A 24-year-old is stranded with her graduate school cancels classes. A 33-year-old has been looking for a partner but isn't having any luck. A 46-year-old woman is replenishing her freedom, while another 61 is mourning her husband's death. Some are living alone for the first time, and others have been alone for a lifetime. And I thought it was key to just talk about single life and coronavirus for a minute, just a different perspective. And so my take on this is I love single life, you know. I love committed life too. And single life doesn't mean that you're out there dating a bunch of people. It just means you enjoy your own space, your own time. What they say in here is so true about me. I love my hobbies. I love my social life. Do you get lonely? Yes, single people get lonely. I think we just don't sacrifice, you know. And my sister, Donna, who lives in London, I had this conversation. It's like, can you imagine if you were at home, you're supposed to be safe at home. In this scenario, you'd be stuck at home with someone that is either mentally or physically abusing you. That's the other side of this, right? And I'm hoping to do a show on that soon, because abuse in no form is acceptable. However, it exists. And I would certainly prefer to be alone and build it and finding a partner to build a life with. I think that's what more strong single women want, is to find someone that accepts them and builds a life together with them. So for me being single, and I want all the single people to give your opinion on it, you know, how are you dealing with it, you know? And for me, I'm just thankful. I'm blessed. I think it's one less issue for me to deal with, unless I was happy and in love like the last people dedicated on the show about. So I'm going to switch a little bit and go over and see if I can see any comments from you guys that I can read out. So I certainly appreciate everyone tuning in. If you're making a comment, I'll try to read it and get to it on this show. Sometimes my computer doesn't cooperate for me to find it efficiently. And there is a nurse that I mentioned that I certainly want to read about what she had to say. And I can't find my comments, so I'm so sorry. All right, I'll try to find it. There's a nurse, and I hope everyone has seen this video. I am going to share it, but I did not want to share it in advance of the show because I wanted to talk about it a little bit first. Can't find the comments. Her name is Danielle Shamal, and my friend Joan sent this to me, and it broke my heart. I actually cried watching this video, so I will share it. And for those of you that have watched it, it went viral, and it's amazing. And it's true, I actually Googled her name, and she did an interview, but I didn't have time to read what was said in the interview. But here goes. My name is Danielle Shamal, an ER ICU nurse in New York, working rapid response for COVID-19. I had a really rough day. I feel like only so much one person can take. Tired of walking into a room and patients are dead. You walk in a room and there is just a dead body in there. Tired of calling families and telling them the bad news. I feel so much sadness for my fellow nurses and sisters and brothers that have lost their lives taking care of people. Whew. I feel bad for the patients who are living, especially the ones that are hanging on by a thread. I don't know, I just feel like people think because we're a healthcare worker that we're immune to this, and we're not. I cried the whole way home in the Uber tonight, and the driver was like, "Ma'am, are you okay?" See, I don't think people understand how stressful this job is. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but it's so stressful. I wish that people would just understand and give us a break. Everyone is trying hard. We all are. We got in this field to do a job. We're stressed just like everyone else. Sometimes I think people just forget we're human too. We are human just like everyone else. We have emotions, the same things that affects you affects me. I can't show it at the moment. I just can't show it at the moment. I just wish people will all have more compassion for each other. Everybody, if you never ever feeling any other time in the world is appropriate to have compassion for each other, it's right now. The time we should all have compassion for each other and try to at least acknowledge what the other person is going through. I just have so much sadness for this. It's almost 10 and I have to go back at 6:45 a.m. I just can't. And when you see this video, if you're a crier, if you don't even have to be a crier. She is crying in this video, blowing her nose, just being raw and natural, and I respect every word that she said in this, because so many healthcare workers that are on the front line are going through this and seeing all the dead bodies. And from their perspective, from their eyes, I can't even imagine it. I can't do what they do. And that's why I thank everyone that's making an impact. Don't give the nurses and doctors and the healthcare workers a hard time. Let's just unite better as a world, because that's what we need to do now. We need to just bring our lives, our planet, our friends, our loved ones, and support each other. And that's what tonight's episode is about, is cheering you on, giving you a different perspective, asking you to look at things differently. I tuned out a lot of the news and I tried to just sift through the news that is important to me, because I think it will drive you crazy, like a lot of people have said tonight. And stay strong. A lot of people are letting their guards down. Don't let your guard down. I tell my kids, we have come way too far. We've been quarantined for way too long, since March 16th, home safe, to let our guards down. And the temptation is there. We're tempted to go to France. We're tempted to say, you've been quarantined, you can come by, but we haven't, because one person can impact so many. So thank you for tuning into the Caribbean Edge. We'll see you next week. And please share this episode once again. Stay strong. Do what's right for you. And we thank you for tuning in to the Caribbean Edge. Thank you for everyone that participated. I appreciate you. Have a good evening.